Hi, everyone. I am Dr. Kristen, and this is Welcome to My World. Today, I'm joined by Shelley Brown, who is on a mission to start a movement to essentially encourage all of us to allow for our weird. I don't know what that means, and I've known Shelley for a little bit, so what I'm really excited about is turning on this camera and letting her teach us, because I think we all need it. So, Shelley, what do you mean?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me, and
Oh, you're
thanks for
welcome.
asking that question. So, I believe that our weird are the thoughts and feelings that we believe isolate us and separate us from everyone. And our weird doesn't know that it's weird until it's judged by others. And I really believe that we can trace back to a time in our lives where we were judged, and that thought came to our minds, oh my gosh, I'm weird. And we put it on like a wool sweater in 100-degree heat that we can't take off. And it changes the lens with which we look at everything. So allowing our weird is actually not about liking it, loving it, or embracing it, because I think that going from not allowing to loving, there's some places in between where we can find contentment, and we may not even have to get to a loving, embracing, accepting. And that's allowing, because I feel like you can't let anyone in unless you allow them in, unless you have room. So allowing means the starting point of their possibilities, or we can just stay at allow. And then we can also find that our weird ends up being what serves others, what we use to serve others. And I like to say it kind of goes from a shroud to a cape.
Interesting. When you were talking about like that we don't know something's weird until someone tells us, I think I thought a lot about all of the college students that I've worked with, or all my friends that are like, well, my family did this forever and I didn't know it was weird till I got to college and I told that story. And now all of a sudden, not every family eats pickles with pancakes, like that kind of stuff. So much of normality that we kind of talk about is just a setting on a tumble dryer. Like normal is something that we construct as a culture, as a people. So it doesn't really mean anything. So
You're right.
really, it sounds to me like what you're saying is almost taking that cape, like as part of taking the cape, is separating our memories and our feelings and our choices from a sense of shame.
100%. It's like we go in the closet every day and we like throw some clothes on, and it's the narrative that somebody put on us, and we decided, oh, this looks great on me, or it looks like shit, but I'm used to wearing it, so I might as well. And we don't even think about the fact that we have the choice to put it back in the closet. I don't believe that all of our narratives ever go away. So, noticing what we've decided to wear as our narrative doesn't mean we could just be like, oh, okay, I'm going to take that off because it itches and it scratches and it's tight and it's uncomfortable. But we can put it in the closet and know that it's there and just notice it. So that's what allowing is all about.
So, what are your tips for helping us allow? I would imagine that first we have to identify some of those things that itch, and then we have to work towards allowing. But as somebody, I have a lot of things that make me itch that I don't know how to ever kind of get away from. So how would you advise me to start allowing?
That's a great question. I think that pain is a really great motivator for one.
Okay.
When you get so sick and tired of hearing yourself say the same thing about yourself. I mean, think about it. A lot of people look in the mirror and the language and narrative that they use towards their image or their reflection, or like a lot of women do about, me, I'm in my 50s and I've caught myself going, ugh, and then I'm like, that doesn't serve me. That doesn't serve me. Also, it separates me from everybody, because if I am so focused on what is going on with me, or the insecurity I feel, or the out of place I feel, or the not belonging I feel, I'm disconnecting myself and no one else is even doing it for me. So it is a practice of noticing. And
Yeah.
I don't know, for some people it's mindfulness. For me, a lot of it came with mindfulness, and I
Mhm.
am not like the woo-woo mindfulness person. I have sat on a lot of cushions meditating, but I actually also use music to meditate. I will choose one instrument and bring my awareness to that instrument. And when I get distracted, like I happen to like rock and I like the Stones and stuff. So I'll listen to Keith Richards. And if my mind gets distracted by Mick or Charlie or drums or
Okay.
whatever's going on, I bring my awareness back to that in back to Keith Richards' guitar and
Okay.
follow it through the whole entire song. And that's practicing our noticing muscles. The idea is
Okay.
when we practice our awareness, we also get to practice how our mind is making meaning.
Okay.
And so when we practice how our mind is making meaning and how we're thinking about things, we get to liberate, we get choice.
It's fascinating. How did you start on this journey?
How did I start on that whole journey or the music or which part?
I guess like this is so much of things that like I was taught to help my clients work through when I was doing social work school, but it's not anything that I'm hearing a lot of other people talk about it as holistically. So we hear about mindfulness, we hear about meditation, but this idea about allowing for the weird and allowing for this paying attention to your life and the shame as a disconnection. It just feels like a lot of narratives coming together. So how did that happen for you?
So, I love the practice of mindfulness, but a lot of people employ the practice of mindfulness for stress reduction. And
That's the only way I've heard it. Yeah.
I believe that it's completely foundational for self awareness
Okay.
because self awareness isn't based, obviously, and you know this, on what other people tell you you're being. It's
Yeah.
on how you are being. And so, getting taught how to sense into what's going on with our bodies. If you ever look in the mirror and go, ugh, and you stop and be like, oh, how does that feel in my body? Where do I sense that? What's the feeling tone? And then what's the behavior pattern?
Okay.
Isn't it, neural pathways? You're interrupting a pattern. Once you can identify the pattern, you can interrupt it. So it's not so much the mindfulness, it's what can happen as a result of the
Okay.
mindfulness.
That makes I when you talk about interrupting your neural pathways, I mean, we want to make change in society. Like that's how we make change in society. If we want to have a different definition of what is acceptable, what is normal versus what is weird, uh, we talk about cultural disruptors. Like rock and roll was really weird until Elvis did it. Um, for instance, just to make a really crass thing, but that's how change happens is by intentional decisions to interrupt what is already existing. So the idea that we take the way that change happens in society and that's how change happens within ourselves is very makes a whole lot of sense to me.
Um,
So yeah.
the other thing is, if you spend time on social media, which all of us do, we're getting people who are inviting people back, who are not inviting people back to humanity. They're shooting people back to humanity. And what I mean by that is you see messages, it's always be kind, never do this, be this. They're speaking in imperatives and pontificating people into being human. And I call it bullshit. I call it total bullshit. And what happens with bullshit, if you're not there, then you're should shaming yourself.
Yeah.
And my saying is like, if it were as easy as Botox to be that, do that, always that, people would be that already. So allowing is a space of an invitation. It's letting, it's allowing, it's inviting. There's hospitality in it instead of shoulding, because if you're not, then you're that. It's not that black and white. So it's more gentle than that.
That makes so much sense to me. And we talked a little bit offline about the difference between embrace and allow. And that unpacking of the hospitality aspect of it really holds that home to me. And I think that's really, really powerful. I could keep going forever. My listeners are very, very used to this, but this is a good place to pause because I need to stop and have my mind be blown for a little bit longer. But Shelley, how folks can get a hold of you is all going to be in the show notes. But I would love to just give you a couple seconds to tell us a little bit about the book.
Oh, okay. So I have a book coming out in June, although there will be pre-sales, and it is called Weird Girl Adventures from A to Z because it's alphabetical and it's short stories, and the stories are basically from a freight train to a roller coaster down a rabbit hole, and it's okay, I'm fine. But it's really our stories just with my signature because I think we're all the same dog, different paws, or the same cat, if you will.
Yeah.
It's just that, we have our own stamp on things. So the book's coming out in June. And on my website, it's weirdgirladventures.com. You can share your stories about your weird. I also have a weekly series on Instagram and Facebook where I ask a weird girl of the week to tell me about, and I want to ask you this if we have time. What's your weird? How did you decide it was weird? How does it serve you and how does it serve others?
Make sure to join us on the Weird Girl over on Shelley's stuff. I'll make sure to link to whenever I show up on that always, and you'll have to tune in over there for my answer because I have a lot of weird, and I am very happy to talk about it because I do, in fact, often very much like my weird, which is part of living in a whole lot of different countries and different cultures and finding out what my weird was accidentally, like at the Walmart counter. But so you'll have to tune in to do Shelley, and I can promise you that you're going to want that book. So we're going to throw all of those links in the show notes. Shelley, thank you for joining me. And thank you everyone for joining this episode of Welcome to My World, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.